Alrighty, and we are live. How's it going, Mets and overall baseball fans? Welcome back to the channel. We're breaking down the latest game for the Metropolitans as they win today by a final score of 5-1 and kick off the 2023 season with their first series dub. So before we break down everything that transpired in this ball game, innings 1 through 9, what I liked, what I didn't like, if anything, there really wasn't much to complain about, honestly. This was a great game overall. Kodai Senga's long-awaited MLB debut. What a stud he ended up being after what was a rocky start, but got out of it. But guys, more than anything, I want to see those spam W's in the live chat right now for people in the comments on the replay. The same applies, and give me your biggest takeaways, folks, from not only the game, but the series as a whole, as the Metropolitans take 3 of 4 in Miami to kickstart their 2023 campaign. How's it going, everybody? Hope you all are having a fantastic Sunday. I know I am. I'm really excited to get into this one and break down this ball game. It was a lot of fun to watch. Kodai Senga, again, we've all been glued to watching his spring starts as is, and today for his first official MLB start was as advertised. You knew he might be a little shaky with the command, especially those nervous jitters in the beginning, but once he settled down big, and that ghost fork was the story of the day. We have a lot to get into. I'm pumped. No better way to start a 2023 campaign than taking at minimum 3 of 4 in a 4-game set, and that's exactly what these Mets did. Again, guys, make sure to smash that like and subscribe button. If you're new or a recurring viewer, it's greatly appreciated if you enjoy this kind of content where we're breaking down everything that you need to know after every single Mets game throughout the normal 162. Then make sure to smash those buttons. Thank you guys all so much in advance. We'll be getting to the player of the game a little bit later. I don't think that this one should be a shock either. I mean, this one, there's a toss-up a little bit, I guess you could argue, but I think there's still a pretty clear-cut guy who's getting the #1 star for obvious reasons. But before we get into that, before we get into it all, again, shout out to all you guys. I gotta get props. I have to get props, James. I know that some of you guys also miss the old setup. Trust me, I think you guys are going to like the new graphics in case you don't just yet, mainly because we have more that we're going to be adding in the coming days. One thing that I really think is going to be X factor is I will be having the entire Mets lineup live update for every single game visible, and I'll be showing you guys in the shows. It's not ready yet, but it will be soon. And in the meantime, we do have a scoreboard ticker down bottom that is all live updates, so that way you're not only following along with all the Mets and their numbers, but same thing applies for every other team and baseball. So I hope you guys like the new graphics. I know that not everyone's going to love it, but this is something that I'm very excited that I'm upgrading this year and will continue to, as it's not even officially done yet. So I just want to give a big pat on the back and apology right away. Talk about apology form. I'm not going to lie. I was kind of writing off Tommy Pham a little bit too early in spring just because of how much Tim LeCastro impressed me in spring and how I felt that LeCastro deserved to be that 4th outfielder. And in hindsight, you know, it doesn't matter because both of them were on this roster, right? So we have Tommy Pham starting the day in in left field. Then you had Tim LeCastro in center. And I got to say, this worked out really well. I mean, you had people nitpicking this Mets lineup early, and right away, both of them were productive. If it isn't for Tommy Pham, there's a possibility the Mets don't win this ball game. So, I mean, in all seriousness, Tommy Pham offensively carried the Metropolitans today. So, you don't have Brandon Nimmo in your lineup until he's pinch hitting the 9th. Not a problem. I got to give credit where credit's due. Tommy Pham stepped up today big time. It was a beautiful matchup against the Southpaw and Trevor Rogers. And Tim LeCastro does exactly what you expect from Tim LeCastro, and that's getting hit by pitches. He is a ball magnet. He's just like Mark Canha. What, you think Mark Canha's bad with the hit by pitches? Tim LeCastro is even worse. So, yeah, they were both productive in their own right for the Mets today. A pleasant surprise. Now, I'm not expecting key production from them every time they're out there, but there's the biggest takeaway that I have from this series as a whole on the offensive front. It's the depth of the order in this lineup coming up big the past 2 days. From Omar Narvaez and Mark Canha yesterday to Tommy Pham, Tim LeCastro, and even Mark Canha again today had himself a nice base hit. I mean, the bottom of the order productive early, and that's a great sign for a Mets team that knows that they're going to need crucial depth with their offense throughout the year that will be ever-changing based on inevitable injuries, call-ups with the Brett Beatties of the world, the Alvarezes, you know, the Vientoses, and if you're Anthony Recker, my co-host for our Mets podcast, he truly believes Ryan Mauricio will be a starting outfielder in the corner before the year's end. So these guys are going to are expected to impact this Mets team at some point. But in the meantime, these placeholders, if they can just do what is expected of them, if not more, then that's awesome. So again, I think we all kind of need an apology form regarding Tommy Pham. I know some of you guys loved him from the beginning. I know a lot of you guys hated him from the beginning. We saw what happened with that baseball in this game. Tommy Pham saw that heater coming in, and he knew that baseball was talking crap about his fantasy team, and that's why he was able to take it dead center. But all jokes aside, let's get into this ball game. Let's talk about Kodai Senga, baby. A lot of positives in this matchup, and again, once more, thank you guys all so much for chiming in as we're sharing our latest analysis on Game 4 of 162, covering this Metropolitan team. But the game starts, like I said, in that first inning, the top of the first, the Mets get working early on Trevor Rogers. And Trevor Rogers is such an interesting guy because you look at this Marlins rotation, right? And 1 through 5, they're really strong. Even without Pablo Lopez, remember Sixto Sanchez when he was that thing for a little bit before he dealt with, his injuries? That doesn't matter now. Trevor Rogers is like their number 5, right? Number 4, number 5, and he has been a shell of what he once was. He wasn't terrible today, but he wasn't great either. I mean, this is a guy that was an all-star in his rookie year coming up in 2021, and then right after that all-star break he hasn't been the same for the past year and a half now, and that kind of continued today. So let's get into it. Darren, thank you so much for being a great member as always. Member for 19 months, your absolute beauty. Welcome to Senga and Fam Show. Shout out to Steven, great member. Scott, great member. Patty, SR, thank you so much for the new membership. James, John, all my OG members. Jack, if I missed anyone, I apologize. Hey, Jack, Dominic, all you guys, love you all to death, and my normal loyal viewers. Let's start off in the first, though, because with 2 outs, the Mets have bases loaded already. A fielder's choice led to a guy getting on, and then back-to-back walks surrendered by Rogers, a southpaw for Miami. And just like that, Jeff McNeil comes in, and he drives in 2 thanks to a throwing error to first because McNeil gets a little dribbler that just is a couple feet off. It's a bad throw to first, and 2 runs come in. Just like that, Mets get the early 2-0 lead. The inning ends with an Eduardo Escobar strikeout, who to start the season through his first 4 games is the worst hitter on the Mets lineup. Again, I'm not going to nitpick. I'm not going to say that Brett Beatty deserves to be on this roster starting because he does. That's a broken record, I feel like, already. But I will just say that Eddie, it's early. I'm not going to beat the dead horse there much. But if we get, say, 3 weeks to a month and we're getting little to no production, which I know we'll get some spurts of in that time, then yeah, if Beatty isn't caught up within the next month at this rate, I will be absolutely furious. But that's enough. Now let's get to the bottom of the first. Luis Arias does what he does best, and I want to give a huge shout out to the Twins for being the worst organization in baseball, having the audacity to trade the reigning AL batting champ to the Mets rival in Miami. That was disrespectful. I don't appreciate it. Arias does what he does best. Again, a single. He has 9 hits in the first 4 games of this season, all against the Mets, obviously. Soler with an RBI double. Jazz with a walk. Garcia with a walk. And again, Gurriel with a strikeout. And this is where it starts. So Marlins had bases loaded. No outs. We're only down a run. And this is where Kodai Senga, after looking rattled, again struggling with the command, he locks in. He strikes out Gurriel with a disgusting forkball that you've seen in the highlights already. Gurriel freaking slings his bat, doing his best Adeiny Hedgeria impression back in spring training a couple of years ago against the Mets when he was a Marlin, no less. That's actually pretty funny. But that was the first strikeout. The second strikeout on Jesus Sanchez, a ghost fork as well. And then John Birdie lines out. Kodai Senga gets out the bases juice, no out jam, unscathed. So Mets are still up 2-1 heading into the second inning, and it only gets better from there for Kodai. Talking about being a bulldog, MLB debut, you barely know a look at English, and he's going out there and shoving with the new, not only the new baseball grips with the new mound, how the slope is different, also the new rules with the pitch clock, because he faced a pitch clock violation today too. Thankfully, it didn't hurt him, however. But we get to the second inning. Jacob Stallings, the schmuck, who hit that walk-off home run in Pittsburgh against Edwin Diaz back in 2021, in which I was in attendance. Despise him ever since. Gets a walk. Joey Wendell with a line out and Arias with a double play ball. If you can get the reigning batting champ to get a double play ball, something he rarely grounds out like that, that's huge. That's where you can really see Kodai's getting in the zone. Only threw 10 pitches there in that second inning. And in the third, oh yeah, let's make it 7 pitches for Kodai Senga with a 1-2-3 third inning, including 2 strikeouts. And how did he strike him out? Yes, you guessed it, with the ghost fork. So Kodai, literally this entire game, every strikeout except for his final one, if I'm not mistaken, was from that ghost fork. Such an anomaly of a pitch where the Marlins Park there in Depot wasn't even set up properly, where when you show the strikeouts in the stadium, it said unknown because it's a ghost. You can't see it. Isn't that funny? We get to the fourth inning. Mark Canha with a base single. Nothing else happens there. In the bottom of the fourth, another 1-2-3 inning for Kodai Senga with one strikeout. We then head to the fifth. Timmy LaCastro with a hit by pitch. Then Tommy Pham drives him in. Like I said, that ball was talking smack on his fantasy team. He takes that bad boy dead center to increase the Mets lead 4-1, and they would never look back. That is Tommy Pham's first home run as a Met, and talk about a day for Tommy Pham. We'll get into him in a bit. Very impressed with how he did today. And again, this is in part why the Mets acquired Tommy Pham to match up specifically against Southpaws, in which he batted better than Mark Canha last year, had right around 800 OPS. If I'm not mistaken, around a 260, 270 or so average. He did well against lefties last year, and that's a good sign, especially with a Mets team that has been so Jekyll to Hyde against lefties. Even if it's against a inconsistent Trevor Rogers, something is certainly better than nothing, and that was Tommy Pham today. Lindor with a hit by pitch, then Brazoban comes in after Trevor Rogers' day's done. 4.1 innings of 4 hit, 3 earned run ball, 1 unearned run, 4 strikeouts, and 1 home run allowed on 84 pitches. After Brazoban comes in, a nice double play ball from him because of Pete Alonso, and that'll do her then for the inning. But we get to the bottom of the fifth with 2 outs. Arise with an Oppo single, Soler with a strikeout. Kodai Senga's through 5 strong innings, and before he gets out of this ball game, he strikes out Jazz Chisholm on a beautiful away pitch, 85 mile per hour, and that'll do her. Kodai Senga's final line today. And you know what? I know we're not even done going through the entirety of the game, but we have to do the player of the game already. We have to. 5.1 innings pitch of 3 hit ball, 1 earned run, 3 walks, 8 strikeouts on 88 pitches. You know, if we did a hitter that's a player of the game today, it is of course Tommy Pham. But overall player of the game has to be Kodai Senga. The adversity that he faced in the start of this game and how comfortable he got fast after that first inning was beyond impressive. And that shows you that, yes, Senga might be a rookie at the MLB level, but he's a savvy vet for being a pro ball player. He spent a decade in the MPB. He has multiple championships over there on his resume. He is a bulldog, and I'm ecstatic to see more of Kodai and what is going to hopefully be a very fulfilling, promising, and exciting Mets career over the next 4 or 5 years. So, guys, I don't know if you agree or disagree, but this has to be my player of the game. Just make them co-players of the game. I was debating that. I probably will going forward, and I probably will also make a further graphic, guys, where I have kind of the top 5 again. I just don't have it set up yet, but if I did do a top 5, Tommy Pham would be number 2 because he was stellar today. But guys, I got to ask everyone in the live chat and people on replay before we head back into breaking down the ball game, what is your initial reactions to Kodai Senga? How impressed or lack thereof were you today after seeing him go out? And again, gave up that early run, back-to-back hits, the Soler double, and just like that's a 1-run ball game. Bases loaded, no outs. For him to get out of that unscathed was really telling to me, especially because it's not like he was a ground ball merchant. He just used his best pitch to his advantage, and that ghost fork, something where I am curious to see how difficult it's going to be for hitters to pick up in baseball and for how long, because again, he's new to the game, so when you have a new pitcher that, again, knows how to pitch in pro ball well and has a nasty, strikeout pitch, yes, it's going to take a while for hitters to adjust, but once they do, how well are they going to adjust? That's another big question I have, because we still have a lot of questions with Kodai Senga, but one thing is certain, he came out today and he was an absolute bulldog, and I love him for that. So, yes, very impressed with Kodai Senga. We'll get back to his player of the game in a minute, but final line, once more, 5.1 innings pitch of 3 hit ball, 1 earned run, 3 walks, 8 strikeouts, 88 pitches to start his Mets tenure with a 1.69. Nice ERA. Let's head back into breaking down this ball game, shall we? Because I do believe we are right around the 6th inning. So Kodai's day is done. Dennis Santana continues to impress. Another scoreless inning, 0.2 innings, but the point still stands. Gets Garcia on a strikeout. Funny enough, because of the clock wasn't back and had his head up in the batter's box in time, they called him out on a strike 3. He had 2 strikeouts to get those final 2 outs in the inning. Dennis Santana is now pitched 1.2 scoreless innings to start his Mets tenure as a reliever. Talk about a nice little waiver claim pickup last minute. I mean, I told you guys there's reasons why I was excited about him and why I felt that there was still untapped potential there. The guy's only 26, 28, somewhere around that range. Miguel Castro vibes, flamethrower, just erratic. So it'll be curious to see how he goes with his control throughout his Mets tenure, but already looking like a bargain, if you ask me. You get him for nothing, and hopefully he's an effective reliever for this pen throughout the majority, if not the entirety, of the year. Going from there, however, we get then to the 7th inning with 1 out. Tim LeCastro did, yes, you guessed it, another hit by pitch. This guy is on pace to already surpass Mark Canha last year. Granted, he won't get as much playing time, but the point still stands. LeCastro with his second hit by pitch of the day. Tommy Pham with an RBI double. Why? Because Tommy Pham rakes. That's why. I don't know how long he's going to rake for, but today he was on the money. Jazz misses a diving catch, something that we saw a lot there in center field in this series. I mean, I know that they're getting Jazz acclimated to center field for the first time. Phenomenal player, going to be elite for years on end. I cannot say enough good things about Jazz Chisholm, but there is one critique. The guy can't play center field yet. It's abundantly clear. He's missing balls like no tomorrow. He's playing too deep or too shallow. Missed a dive there, trying to get a nice flashy catch. Goes behind him, and in doing so, that leads LeCastro to score with ease. Why? Because Timmy LeCastro is arguably the fastest player on the effing planet. So there's that. So look, Pham gets in there in second without a problem. The Mets increased their lead where it would stay at a final line of 5-1. Then we get to the bottom of the 7th. John Curtis comes in, trying to bounce back after giving up what would end up being that game-losing run in Game 2 of the series where he gave up a bomb to, yes, funny enough, Jazz Chisholm's first home run of the year. Towering home run to right second deck in Game 2 of the series. John Curtis today, though, bounces back nicely with a 1-2-3 inning. The former Miami Marlin looking sharp with 1 strikeout. Then we head to the 8th inning, and I got to give major props to Stephen Nogosek. Cracked this bullpen late, especially probably want to crack the bullpen if everyone was healthy, but he cracks the bullpen to start the year with sharp and certain flashes last year for the Mets out of the pen, and then in AAA, escapes a 2-on, 2-out jam to get out of it unscathed. Then in the 9th, with 2 outs, Tommy Pham gets a walk. Shame on them for not letting him hit to try to get the cycle, those you-know-whats. But he does steal a base. So Tommy Pham literally doing it all, sprinkling it in there. You want a double, you want a home run, you want a walk, you want a stolen base. That is what I like to see, Tommy. Keep it up, baby. No less, the Mets don't score there in the top of the 9th. So we head to the bottom of the 9th, and Stephen Nogosek pitches a 1-2-3 inning, and that'll do her. Or at least, pardon me, he might have gave up a walk or a hit, but then he gets out of there. So Stephen Nogosek, 2 innings pitch of 1 hit, 0 earned run ball, 2 walks, 1 strikeout on 35 pitches. He gets the non-save there for the Mets in the 9th inning. I believe it's non-save. I'm trying to think. Guys, enlighten me. How many innings does it need? How many run differential does it need to be for it to be a non-save? Is it 4 innings? I mean, is it 4 runs? Is it 5 runs? Enlighten me. Because I know it's one of those. So that's why I think it was a non-save situation. I'm pretty sure. But let me know in the chat because, again, I'm not the brightest. There are some things that I naturally forget or I'm wrong about. So let me know in the live chat as you do that. 25 months. Yes, Tim is an absolute beauty. Shout out to Tim, guys. If you don't know him in the live chat, he's been an OG member of mine, a good friend of mine. It's not a save. That's what I thought. Thank you. OG member of mine. He was with the 7 line all weekend with Darren and them, which is sick. Shout out to the 7 line army as always. Have hung out with Tim as well, pre-gaming before with the 7 line. And he says, I got back from Miami earlier this afternoon, and it was a great few games. A beautiful stadium that was completely filled with Mets fans. Yeah, it's literally what they have the 7 line shirts say. It's, you know, the Queen South there. It absolutely is. I mean, every time that ballpark is bopping, it's not because of the Miami Marlins. It's because of any and every other team. The WBC, when you have Puerto Rico, DR, Cuba, etc., all there. And then the same thing applies when the Mets are in town every single time. Jolly Olive, what a beauty. Shout out to you, Jack. Hope you're doing well, my man. Guys, you all know who Jolly is with Chase Station, with Jerry Blevins, and, of course, over on his Jolly Olive YouTube channel. Make sure to check him out. Senga, exactly. I mean, what else needs to be said? An absolute beauty today. I love the fact that pretty much every one of his strikeouts today, too, were from the Ghost. It's something that we didn't see a lot of in spring until, like, his final start. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to just go with old reliable today. These hitters don't know what to expect. Let me toss that bad boy in there and really get settled in. Yeah, shout out to you, Jack. A lot of you guys know Jolly. We got to get him on the channel. We talked months ago. We got to get a collab going with the pod or something along those lines. Jack, great guy. Make sure to check out all of his content there with John Boy Media if you haven't already. Luis, thank you so much for the donation. He says, great composure out of Kodaizilla. Love that name. Senga. Oh my God, I actually love that name. Kodaizilla, especially because he's Japanese. That is on the money. I effing love that. We need to get a grab. The Ghost Fork stuff is awesome, But Kodai I think you may have found something there, my friend. I love that. You gotta trademark that yourself. You gotta do something. Finding a way to get out of bases loaded, no out jam, that's a sign for success in the major leagues. 100% Luis. Thank you kindly for that donation. And Sandy, amazing debut by Senga. Yeah, I mean, seriously. Look, it's funny. I was texting my co-host Joe. You know, he had the K prop today. He took the over on Senga for over 4.5 strikeouts today. I texted him when it was bases loaded, no outs, and I jinxed it. Good thing I did, saying, yeah, I don't know if Kodai's going to get that 5 today. I'm concerned about it. And here he gets out of that jam unscathed, and he ends the day with literally 8 strikeouts. What a beauty he is. And again, once more for people just chiming in, yeah, Kodai Senga's your player of the game. Those 8 strikeouts were so nice. My goodness gracious. And yeah, thank you again, Jack. I appreciate you, my man. Have a good rest of your weekend. Senga looked incredible, says Tim, for sure. Kodai Zilla, damn, that's a... Dude, why didn't I think about that sooner? I effing love that. That's awesome. Wardy, we need Senga merch on the channel. I know, Darren, we're going to be revamping the merch entirely because we are a separate identity from the network we were with now. So also, yeah, FYI, I appreciate everyone that's bought merch in the past, but by all means, don't continue to acquire merch from Believe because we're not a part of Believe anymore. We will be making further announcements with things. So once the good news comes out, I will make sure to inform you guys right away. But yeah, all the merch I appreciate, but considering we're not going to be going by Believe in Queens anymore, don't get the merch. You know, that's all I ask. Again, thank you so much for the endless support, though, guys. I appreciate it. I'm going through the live chat here as we're breaking down this Mets ball game. And actually, before I get into it more, let's go through the Mets lineup as a whole. And again, once I have that other graphic ready for you guys, I'll be sharing it your way. So through the lineup today, Tommy Pham led the way offensively. You heard it already. 3 for 4 with the home run, the 3 RBI stakes, the walk, the run scored. Starling Marte 0 for 5 today. Not a problem. 2 strikeouts. Still batting a cool 357 through his first couple games of the year. Francisco Lindor 0 for 2. Again, hasn't done much offensively yet, but that'll pick up. Kind of surprised that, he didn't take advantage of being the father of Miami this time. But hey, this is a Lindor that, might I add, had 7 home runs and 19 RBIs, and I believe 17 games. Or 17 games or 19 games against Miami last year. It was an absurd number, but Lindor off to a not great start against Miami, but I'd expect that to change as the year goes on. Alonso 0 for 3 today with a run scored and a strikeout. Marcano 1 for 3 today with a walk. Canna look sharp today. Nice base hit that was just out of the reach. I want to say it was John Birdie or Wendell, one of the two. Either way, nice base hit from him, pulling it to the left side. Eduardo Escobar 0 for 4 today. Tomas Nido 0 for 4 today. Timmy LaCastro 0 for 1, but a 2 runs scored. Why? Hit, pitch, God himself. You think Marcano's impressive with being a ball magnet? Tim LaCastro says, how you doing? Might do it a little bit better. Brandon Nimmo for 1, pinch hitting there. Barreled the baseball nicely. It went to left, but it was an easy catch still there for Jesus Sanchez. Kodai Senga. Let's break down Kodai Senga's arsenal briefly for you guys. So the 4-seam fastball, and again, these aren't completely accurate in Baseball Savant because they're still trying to properly articulate what is the ghost fork, but still, 4-seam fastball was 36% of Senga's arsenal today. Heading back there, we'll just go to that graphic while we talk about him. He topped out today. Let's see. The minimum velo on the 4-seam fastball today. This looks... What? This is how we know they have it wrong. They're saying the minimum velo on the fastball today was 68 miles per hour and the maximum was 106. There's no... that was exit velo. My bad. I read that wrong. The minimum was 95. Max was 99. He averaged 97. Kodai was easily pumping 96, 97 on the gun heading into that final 6th inning, which was sharp. The forkball, 30% of his arsenal today. Minimum was 82.4, and the average was 85 miles per hour. The sweeper, minimum was 78, and the average was 83, and the highest was 86. And the cutter, which was only 14% of his arsenal today, minimum was 89. Maximum was 93 and average was 90. Yeah, Kodai was sharp today using that 4-pitch mix. And again, working with that cutter, working with the sweeper as well. Newer pitches to his arsenal, trying to adjust those grips with the MLB baseballs and getting acclimated to the mound. Overall, a very sharp day for him, and hopefully the first of many sharp starts for Kodai Senga in his Mets career. Kevin, thank you so much for the donation. I appreciate that. Stoney, have a great one, my man. Thank you so much for chiming in. Kevin says, Buck deserves credit with the fan move and saving Otto Roberts. Yes, this is what I'm saying, guys. Okay, we talked about this last year when Jankowski was getting starting reps, in the first series against DC. I'm trying to think who else was in that mix. Yorme getting more playing time. People criticize it right away, but this is Buck's way of trying to keep guys fresh. You want guys fresh. The Mets aren't a young team by any stretch, so why not do it, especially when you are facing teams where that at least on paper, you should still be able to overcome slight adversities of not having Nimmo starting or Marte starting, or, then you have Yorme at second base with McNeil either having a rare off day or playing in the corner outfields. I don't know why there are people that don't trust Buck at this point, because he's proven time and time again why there's a method to his lineups. Now, do I agree with them always? No. And are there lineups down the stretch where I feel like he gives guys too much of a leash? Absolutely. But aside from that, to start the season, you have to kind of be foolish to be, saying that, the lineup's false because you have Pham and LeCastro, when in reality, Pham and LeCastro aren't playing today. There's a solid chance you don't win this ball game, Who knows? Maybe the Marlins somehow, some way do get at least one more run, right? And then the only runs you had were from McNeil today right now with those, the little dribbler that led to 2 thanks to the throwing error. So, just food for thought. It's very easy to nitpick a Mets team as it is with any other team of baseball, but this Mets fan base is unprecedented. They are truly something amazing, rather, but we know how we act, right? We know overreactions, including myself. I go far beyond that I normally should for no reason. Like, again, today, I'm being a schmuck. I'll openly say it. When I saw Escobar strike out, I'm like, Beatty at minimum gets on base there. And, I don't think that's a wrong thing to say. I don't think that's outlandish, but I also am wary of the fact that I am nitpicking a guy that has only played 4 games. So, and I'm also favoring a guy that does have very limited MLB experience and hasn't proven much at the MLB level. But I have a confidence level in Beatty that I will continue to push that narrative for as long as possible until his ass is up with this team. Pardon my French. Brett the Met is just a beauty. Speaking of which, let's actually check Brett the Met and the Syracuse Mets scores, if that's cool with you guys. But before I do, let me check some donations. Again, Kevin, thank you for that dono. I appreciate that. Tim with the $100 holla. Thank you so much, Tim. You absolute beauty. You did not need to do that. So the fact that you did is beyond appreciated. Guys, get some love. Let's get some hype in the chat for Timothy McBride with the $100 holla. Guys, let's spam some T's in the chat if you're watching live on replay. Spam it too, baby. Spam those T's. Letter T, not for me, but for Tim. Thank you so much, my man. You're the absolute best. You're doing great, and you're heading in the right direction, Tyler. Keep going, my man. Thank you so much, Tim. And again, it really means a lot coming from you, Tim, as it does from many of you guys that I've known for a while. Like I said, we started the channel in December of 2020, and I'm very familiar with a lot of the names of people I interact with on the channel. Obviously, not everyone, because when I have, gratefully over 20,000 subscribers, I'm not going to remember every single person right away. But Tim, like I said, had the privilege of meeting him in person before. I'm sure I'll meet him and hang out with him at some point again this year, in which we're planning to do some meetups this year for games. Get ready for that. That's going to be exciting too. A lot of fun stuff coming this year. But putting that tangent aside, Tim, thank you so much once again. You're an absolute beauty. Really, really does mean a lot, my man. Thank you so much. And I'm happy that you got to go to the 7-line trip in Miami and for them to perform. That was the biggest thing. I know that they didn't perform in game 2, but still, to get that opening day victory is always electric. Mets, talking about the easiest lock for a bet, it's hammering Mets money line on opening day. They are the best in the biz. I know I hammered it, and I know I benefited from it the same way I hammered on the Mets today. And I did a little, for those that are in tune with betting and things of that nature, today I hammered the all New York bet. I went Rangers money line, Mets money line. We're 2 for 2. Now I'm waiting on the Knicks. RJ Barrett is out today, so I don't know how much that's going to impact things. Obviously going to get more playing time. I wonder how much playing time, if at all, Fournier is going to get. Again, I'm not getting on a tangent, but, we'll see what happens on that front. Because when I do stuff like that, the money I use a lot from my betting wins, I help use it for the giveaways. For example, especially the giveaways we just did on the channel when we hit 20K a month ago or so, when we finally did the giveaways, gave away a Kodai Senga jersey and a Kodai Senga shirtsy. That was all from betting winnings. So I really like to, push it back out there and just have things this rotation. So we'll see how that game goes, but enough of me getting on my tangents per usual. Fun day to be a Mets fan and covering this team. Would also like to let everybody know there will not be a podcast podcast out tonight or tomorrow, mainly because of the fact that we were initially going to record Joe and I, probably not Rec because he was busy, so it was a slim chance, and we would do a pre-recording and not have it live. It would have premiered like tomorrow early in the day, maybe around 11, 12. But one, I want to do that because I need to fix audio. I'm still having audio issues transferring the audio into my new software for our new setup for the podcast. And two, the Mets play tomorrow at like 2 in Milwaukee, so that shelf life wasn't going to last long at all. So we're going to skip that episode where we will be back. Wednesday night is when we're hoping to be live with hopefully better audio, just trying to get some things fixed. I know it wasn't terrible, but especially Joe's audio, it was like completely different than mine. So trying to get that fixed up, and hopefully with the Milwaukee series conclusion, Wednesday night, we will be back with our second podcast that is now separate from the Believe Network. James, thank you for the donation. I appreciate that too. Nothing beats a Mets win other than a post-game Wardy show after a win. Oh, you're making me blush over here. Thank you so much, James. I appreciate that, guys. I really do. What type of mic do you use? Shure SM7B. It's as simple as it's the bougie mics that all the OG podcasting shows you watch out there. It really doesn't get much better than this. Was a pretty penny. That's why it took me a while to get, but certainly worth it. I really, really like it. And the best thing about this mic, too, is that it helps get rid of the surrounding noise. So then if I do watch parties this year, I can actually listen to the Mets game, because before I hated doing watch parties by doing my own play-by-play, because I couldn't hear the game because I had to have my TV so low, because if it was a little bit loud, I would get copyrighted. So now I can have my TV at normal volume right across from me, and it doesn't pick up on the mic. And if I have someone talking next to me or something, all you hear is me for the most part. So really, really sharp mic, and appreciate all the kind words regarding the graphics, guys. Again, we're going to continue to add more graphics for the show this year, so I'm excited for more of that. And again, just thank you for the endless support. John with the $5 donation says, I remember that all-night Barra stream. Oh my goodness. Never again. Was a little nervous after that first inning, but Senga settled in like MLB vet. And that's what stood out the most to me, guys, and I hope you agree with me. Really what stood out was the fact that you had him come out, getting shelled early, not in the shell of, giving up hard base knocks every time, but the fact that he was getting those walks. And that's the biggest thing with Kodai Senga. Even at his best, what has been an issue with him in his career over the decade span in the MPB was that walk rate would fluctuate. I mean, he would be north of 4 walks per nine easily. So that is probably going to be his biggest bugaboo this year, especially getting acclimated to the baseballs that we have in MLB. Getting acclimated with the knowing that when it comes to the catcher and anyone he interacts with, he doesn't know much English going on. He's doing his best right now. I give him credit, though. He already knows more than you'd expect this soon since coming to the States just a couple months ago. But yeah, Senga is going to be a very interesting one to watch all year, but you got to give him credit. He pitched like a savvy vet. Again, pitched like a guy that has at least a decade of pro experience under his belt, which he certainly does. Let me see here what other comments you got for me before we go forward here in the live show, guys. And also, we will be, again, I'm hoping, if not starting this upcoming week, then the following week, we will be having at least one guest on per week for post-game shows, if not multiple. We will be taking callers in. The only reason why I really haven't done that yet is because I want to make sure the audio is proper. If the audio was as bad as what it was for my podcast the other day, I need to make sure that is rectified before bringing in guests. So, again, fixing these things we have all season, though, thankfully. So even if I miss the first week or two of having things how I want them, it won't last long. So stay tuned for all that. That's going to be a lot. I can't wait to have more guests on, other Mets minds, of course, and also callers, taking live callers. That's always fun. Had a lot of fun when we did that last year for sure. So excited to get that into it. But tomorrow, stay tuned. I am planning to have an announcement on the channel that will likely be in the post-game show's conclusion. So you have to be there to listen, to witness. That is the goal. And yes, it goes directly in hand with opening day at home for the Mets. So stay tuned. I will be in attendance for the Mets home opener this year, which means that I will either do a quick recap on my phone after the game's conclusion, or I will attempt to do a live stream on my phone exiting Citi Field or in my car. I'm not 100% lock to do that, but there is intent on my end to do that. And then as we get into the weekend, I won't probably be covering every game of that first home opener series in Miami because it gets in the weekend, and I will have some things coming up, just personal life stuff, nothing bad, just, weekend stuff. So during the week, we will always be covering games, but weekends, at most 2 games I'll probably be missing, which is, again, more than fine when I'm covering at least 5 games a week for you guys. But yeah, a lot of stuff coming, announcement. I'm excited to hopefully have out for you guys tomorrow. And yeah, that's really it. So Ryan, thank you for that donation too. Says Kodai is our third ace. Looks like we have a 1-2-3 punch with Max, Verlander, and Ghost. And how about replacing Ruff with Pham and McCann with Narvaez? Great. LFGM. Yeah, off to a nice start. If this was Darren Ruff and James McCann this series, how many ground outs are we seeing, right? That's my initial reaction. Again, it's no ill will when it comes to McCann, Ruff with these guys, but there's a reason why they aren't on this roster, and they got far longer leashes that they deserved, especially James. I mean, I know he dealt with injuries, but, every player deals with injuries, man. It's one of those things where if you, since you came here, you never lived up to that. You weren't even worth a quarter of the contract that was given you. Okay? The fact that the Mets gave James McCann $40 million is insane. As someone, including myself, who was a heavy advocate of James McCann, I was excited. I'm a casual White Sox fan for the AL. I watched him that year prior and in the short 2020 season, right? And he looked sharp. Liked him a lot. But my goodness gracious, talking about, falling fast. Just not good at all. But same thing said with Darren Ruff. You live and you learn. Not every decision that the Mets are going to make is sharp. We've known that by now. But it's imperative that they are able to fix these situations sooner rather than later, and they were able to do that, and that is certainly a big takeaway. But guys, we look through this Mets series as a whole. Let's get into this Mets series for the next couple minutes before we start to get to the conclusion of the show. Mets take 3 of 4 in the series, right? My biggest takeaways for certain, without looking at any crazy numbers. I wanted to look up the Mets minor leagues. See how I got on a little tangent? I'm sorry, guys. But as I'm looking up the Mets numbers here, I do also want to say the Mets take 3 of 4. Would I like to sweep? Of course, who wouldn't? Especially when the Mets only lost the series, was simply they just didn't have offense, which is annoying, especially when you're facing Jesus Luzardo, who, don't get me wrong, is a very good pitcher, very underrated pitcher. Still should have more offense in that game, right? And that will be the first of many frustrating losses that the Mets have this season. But there are positive takeaways. There's a lot, and it really is the depth of this Mets lineup showing up and fast. Putting that one loss aside, getting on top of Alcantara, getting on top of Cabrera, who was erratic and really couldn't settle down at all yesterday, and getting on top of Rogers. These are key things. And this entire series was with a lack of production from Lindor, from Alonso. So once you really get the depth and the entirety of this lineup as a whole start to produce more, then that's huge. And I shouldn't say that Alonso hasn't produced in the series. He has. It just wasn't anything insane. He got on base, I think it was 3 or 4 times one of the games, had the solo home run when the Mets still lost 2-1 because John Curtis gave up that home run to Jazz Chisholm in the second game. But yeah, overall, a lot of nice takeaways from this series, and I want to know what your biggest takeaways are from the series too, guys. So make sure to continue to let me know in the live chat, and for people on replay, let me know in the comments, while also smashing that like and subscribe button. I don't know where we're at the likes, guys, but it'd be greatly appreciated. If we could try to get to, upwards of 400 likes at some point, 300 to 400, that would really mean a lot, and especially lots of comments in down below for people on replay. Even if you watch the live show, leave a comment afterwards. It really helps with the algorithm and helping reach out there to as many Mets fans as possible. So thank you guys, and I'll leave it at that. So let's get into the Syracuse Mets today. I know that they were playing. I just want to see what their lineup looks like. Mets lost today. Okay, Syracuse Mets did nothing today. Jose Buto did not look great. So let's get into the numbers here, shall we? Syracuse Mets is something I'm going to be following a lot this year when you have Mauricio, Alvarez, Beatty, and Vientos on this team until they're all caught up. Okay, so Mets didn't do anything today. Brett Beatty went 0 for 4. Vientos won 1 for 2. Clearly, who is, I don't know what's going on with his investigation, so I don't know what to say on that front. I don't like that he's here, but again, I am also the guy that is innocent until proven guilty, so I'm curious to know what that status is. But at the same time, he didn't show up to court. So there was a warrant for his arrest a little while ago. I don't know what the Clearly update is. I actually need to look that up because it was not looking good. I remember that. Aruz, who looked really solid in spring in his limited opportunities, 2 for 3 today. Mauricio, 1 for 4 today with an RBI, which he had the lone RBI for the Mets. Michael Perez, the catcher, 0 for 4 today. Cedrola, who looks solid in spring, 2 speedster, minor leaguer, 0 for 3. And Cortez in left field, 0 for 3 today. Jose Buto gave up 2 earned runs, only 3.2 innings pitched. Not a good start to his AAA season. Muckenhern gave up 3 hits, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, no earned runs, and 1.2 innings pitched. Muckenhern is a name to watch for the Mets pen this year with a lack of lefty depth they have. He is a guy that almost cracked this Mets bullpen, actually, because of their lack of lefty depth, but he's still starting the year in AAA, as you see. Walker, let's see, had himself a 1.2 inning of 4-run ball. None of them were earned, so some defensive issues going on there. And then TJ McFarland, who did not impress me in spring, the savvy southpaw vet who was with Buck Showalter's Orioles back in the day and gave up that solo bomb to Nimmo last year when the Mets had that insane 5 unearned run rally in the top of the 9th in St. Louis last year, if I'm not mistaken. McFarland gave up 2 runs today. And yeah, Mets got steamrolled today in their game. After dominating 16-6 yesterday, they lose to the Red Sox affiliate today by a final score of 8-1. Out hit 10-5. Who's got a warrant for his arrest? Yeah, Khalil Lee, the Mets outfield prospect. I saw it was about because he didn't show up to court. It was a thing. It was like a couple months ago. I don't know the current status, so I don't want him to speak here because that's obviously a very touchy topic to get into. I'm not trying to, say anything that's wrong or not factual, but I do recall there being a warrant for his arrest. So I wonder if that has since dissipated, like if he showed up to court and everything's fine now. I'm not sure. I really don't know. I remember when that was happening because that was this year, just over the past month and a half or so. It wasn't long ago. Kodai Senga is our ace, says James. Shout out to you, James. Hope you're doing well, my man. James makes awesome overall sports content, too, so make sure to check out his channel. Does a weekly podcast talking all things New York sports, not just Mets. Had me on his channel a little while ago, too, so feel free to check him out. Another high riser, young stud just getting started in the sports space here on YouTube. Let's see. Senga said that to help him with his nerves. Lindor played a big part and was one who really settled him. Lindor's phenomenal. I'm glad that you said this, Darren. I'd imagine that they brought this up in the postgame today on SNY, and that's huge because Lindor is known for being that guy that comes in the huddle, right? Every single time that there's any guy rattled, Lindor is the first guy to lead the way on that front. And I need to turn SNY off now because they're back to showing like 2010 highlights or whatever it was. I mean, when Steve Gallups has his short haircut and there's no grays, it's been a while. They need to update that. I don't know why they stay doing that. But again, the Mets don't necessarily have a storied history. Wins and iconic games have been few and far between until recent years. But that's enough of that. But yeah, that's awesome regarding Lindor. Very happy to hear that. Francisco's an absolute stud. I mean, defensively, offensively, once he gets going, obviously, slow start to the season. Just being that overall leader. Yes. Is he ever going to live up to that contract? No. I mean, no guy's ever going to live up to that type of money. That's how it is. But that's also just the price point for guys at his level right now. Eric Campbell highlights, like, literally. Exactly. That's great. Soup. Yep. Rec would have something to say about that. But what I will say about Lindor is that, yes, while he's a $300+ million man, first year of his contract last year was arguably his best season of his career, if not his second. This year, we will likely see very similar numbers, if not greater. I don't think Lindor is going to get much better than what we saw last year, but if we can get him at a consistent level for the next number of years, at minimum half that contract, that's huge. And then once he gets into his second half of his 30s, then you see what is best for the Mets and what they're going to do. I mean, long-term, Steve Cohen has already proven that he's willing to eat money if need be. So I'm really not all that concerned with any long-term investments the Mets have, including Brandon Nimmo for that matter. But for right now, there's no denying that what Lindor is and what he means to this team is absolutely massive. And I'm very grateful to have him on this team. He's one one of, if not my favorite player on this team for a good reason. And that isn't only the leadership qualities that he brings. It's not not just the bat to ball skills. It's not the elite defense, but it's the type of character and the personality that he is. Keep in mind, I mean, every Mets fan and their mother decided to rag on this guy so hard when he had a terrible start in 2021 to his Mets tenure. And he overcame that adversity like a like a bad MF is what he did. And I got to give him massive kudos for that. So the leadership qualities, not surprised at all. Nor had a broken hand for a month. Yeah, I know. Yep, it was right in the beginning of July when the Mets had their West Coast trip last year. Lindor, first day in LA, got his effing finger jammed in a door and broke it. It was his, I think, I'm almost certain it was his middle finger on his right hand, right? So he missed one game. He missed that one game, and that was it for like the entirety of the year with that injury. He played through it. He did go through a little bit of a slump in hand with it, but he was a bulldog to go through that. I really think that helped kind of get everyone acclimated and everyone happy in that clubhouse with him as like that proved a lot from what I heard in the offseason. That really impacted Lindor in a positive manner with just the type of guy that he is and the type of head that he has on his shoulders. You know, as long as he's physically able to go out there and feels like he can be productive, he will do that versus other guys, you know, who will certainly do their, by all means, if they can sit out, they will. And that's far more apparent in, say, NBA than it is in baseball, but the point stands. You know, Lindor on that price point, there are guys out there that are on big contracts, and they're like, oh, you know, you got to, you know, a slight injury, and they're going to sit out a couple of days, when in reality, they didn't need to. Got to give Lindor massive credit for that, and just hope that he can stay healthy. You know, just like all the guys on this team. You know, it always comes down to health, and this can't just be said for the Mets, but it can really be said for every team out there. You know, it's always going to come down to health. But as we look through the stats here real quick, and we'll probably be wrapping things up, guys, in the next 5 minutes. For people on replay, I don't know if we're going to cut things off on replay or not. It seems like a lot of you guys are liking a little bit of the longer format. I know that's not the most appealing things to viewers on replay that just want to watch the show for 20, 30 minutes, but know that you don't have to watch the entire thing either. So that is something to keep into mind. But as we look at the scoreboard, Conforto went 0 for today. That's sad. Hope you guys like the scoreboard too. Yeah, this is live automated. This is no different than what you're watching on SNY or ESPN or MLB Network. And I'm very happy with how it's turning out. So the Mets, we saw what they did today. Yankees saw there. But the game prior, one guy who I am nervous about for the Mets' sake this year that is on arrival is Mackenzie Gore. Mackenzie Gore, for those who aren't aware, was the young southpaw who was traded in the Juan Soto deal last year. Didn't pitch a game for the Nationals last year because he was out with injury. Made his Nationals debut today, and he carved up the Atlanta Braves to help serve them on a platter their first loss of 2023. Gore, again, we all know how Jekyll and Hyde Mets are against lefties as is. So I'm not looking forward to facing Mackenzie Gore for the handful of times, you know, the Mets face him this year, because Mets face Nationals 13 times this year. Same thing with everyone else in the division. So do the math. They'll face him a handful of times, but yeah, he's sharp. Happy that he carved up the Braves, but I'm not looking forward to facing him. And hopefully when the Mets do face him, they can, you know, beat up on him a little bit. Yeah, I saw Chris Bassett get absolutely worked today too. I'm not shocked at all. I'm really not. That's the bummer about Chris Bassett. The guy comes out. What is he not known for? It's working fast, right? He can't shake off his 10 pitches, you know, in his arsenal. I'm joking, only halving, because he has like 6 pitches in his arsenal. He can't shake them off every time now with the pitch clock, and he got absolutely worked today. He gave up 8-9 runs and 3 1/4 innings. Like, what? Like, again, don't get me wrong, against the Cardinals team that's been a very high offensive series to start. But yeah, Bassett starting off the season not well because of the pitch clock and getting acclimated is the least bit surprising. And I promise you, the pitch clock was indeed a factor into why the Mets did not bring Bassett back. I liked Bassett a lot when he was here. Loved him in Oakland. I wish him all the best in Toronto, but I am not shocked by that. And then you see, you know, Wheels getting beat up by the Texas Rangers yesterday. DeGrom getting beat up by the Phillies in the opener. I mean, every former Met has been beaten up. The only one that's a question mark right now is Taijuan Walker, and Ty didn't have a good spring. Velo was dipping quite a bit after the WBC, and I'm not sure that was just because he was dialing it back or if he was dealing with fatigue to start. But that's another guy that's interesting to watch for the year. But yeah, we'll see how all the former Mets do this season. Obviously, there's going to be guys that perform. A lot of these guys are sharp players as is. The Mets par with them for different reasons. Some of them, was more so them, say, wanting to leave versus Mets wanting to part with them. That somewhat goes in hand with Jake, but we're not going to go on that tangent now. So far, so good, though, with the Mets and decisions that they made, both, internally on what they kept and added, and externally on what they parted with. So, something to do. Lugo's doing amazing right now. I know Lugo's pitching. Lugo is matching up against the Southpaw Gomber for the Padres. And if you guys are interested in following along with Lugo's journey now in San Diego or the Padres as a whole, then I highly suggest you guys go check out literally one of my closest friends out there, Borna at Hogwatch on YouTube, the #1 Padres YouTuber. No one even comes close to him. He is phenomenal. If you guys like an animated personality every single night, more animated than me a lot of times, that is Born to check him out. He will be live after the conclusion of the Padres and Rockies game today. And him and I will be doing collaborative content together. Probably we're going to do a collab for the Mets Padres series, which is over the next week. And then I will actually be going to his place more than likely in San Diego in July because he is walking distance from Petco. So we're likely going to attend all 3 games there in Petco in July. Then we're going to head back to his place and do live streams on our respective channels together for that. So, yes, it sucks that the Mets got beat up by the Padres, but it doesn't change the fact that him and I, really good friends, and we're excited for this respective battle between 2 teams at the top of the NL this year. So, going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to get to some of your questions, then we're going to wrap things up here in a second, guys. Marte is always smiling. Marte's a dog. I don't know. You can't. I don't know how you can't love him. I agree with that one. Let's see here. Starling is looking sharp per usual. Putting these streams on in the background, it's like having a nice radio announcer give a nice recap of context. I'm happy to hear that, Andrew. Thank you. I know a lot of people that listen to my stuff do just have me in the background, too. It's pretty cool. Just said on SNY that he received new contacts on Friday and credits his doctor for helping him see better. Very interesting. I'm assuming that's regarding Kodai Stove? If so, very, very cool. And for those just chiming in, again, Kodai Senga is the player of the game. 5.1 innings pitch of 1 earned run ball, 8 strikeouts, and 7 of which came via the Ghost Fork. Yeah, Padres fans were booing after the 0-2 start. They're booing Soto like crazy. Yeah, Padres fans have expectations like the Mets, so they're going to be animated and booing very fast for sure. There are similarities in those fan bases in that sense. That is for certain. Do I think Kodai Senga has a chance to become the face of this rotation? Over time, yes. Especially because both JV and Max, they're not going to be here more than a couple years. So, yes, I think that there's potential. I don't think it'll be right from the riff. I don't think he will be leading the way this year per se. But in the coming years, I definitely see that potential, yes. Let's see. Definitely have you in the background while playing MLB The Show. That's dope. Yeah, let me know what you guys think about MLB The Show this year yet. I haven't played it yet. I'm not huge when it comes to gaming, especially because I don't like doing things that takes time away from doing Mets content and things of that nature. But no less, I definitely want to know how that game's going for people. A lot of people like it so far, I know. There's a lot of debates regarding, having the high overall guys to start the year. But I kind of see it as a plus because the game does get ruined by a certain month when everyone has high guys. But if you start the year like that, then you have no choice to then just enjoy it for what it is. So it's kind of like, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't type situation. But guys, with that being said, I think that's going to wrap things up before we get into an hour in the show. Thank you all once more for watching. There will be no podcast for the series, so we will be back at it with a podcast Wednesday night. Until then, you will see post-game shows for the entirety of the Brewers series before we have the podcast Wednesday night, and then basically take a little bit of a break from the live shows. The majority of the Marlins series, the home opener, and then we'll get back going the following week. So, announcement tomorrow in the live stream. Make sure you're chiming in post game. You got to be chiming in. It's very important that you do. Thank you all so much as always for watching. Mets win final score 5-1 is your final, led by Kodai Senga and Tommy Pham on the offensive front. And now we look to see how they do in Milwaukee tomorrow, and that will be a key matchup as well. Cookie Carrasco on the bump for Game 1 against Peralta. Game 2 will be Mad Max versus, I want to say it's who is it? Why am I blanking on that schmuck's name? I think it's Woodruff, Game 2, and then Game 3 if I'm not mistaken, Peterson versus Burns. So big matchups. We'll see how they do. I will see you guys tomorrow. Until then, have a great rest of your night, day, evening. Whenever you're watching this, the Mets look to continue a little bit of a win streak that they got going, and hopefully we'll see it happen. Thank you guys so much.